Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. My name is Reuben, and on today's episode we will be counting down the 25 greatest movies of the 21st century so far. According to me, one man who happens to love movies, more like a celebration of international cinema at the quarter-century mark. You guys know how we YouTubers love our lists. It's the only way to quantify greatness. So, without further ado, let's get this started.
Reality and love are almost contradictory for me. It's funny. Every single of my exes, then they're married. Men go out with me, we break up, and then they get married. And later they call me to thank me for teaching them what love is, and that I taught them to care and respect women.
I think I'm one of those guys.
You know, I want to kill them!
Since the first movie premiered in 1995, the Before trilogy has had fans asking themselves, when the hell is this going to happen to me? And while the first movie captures the magic of discovering love, and the third tackles the hardships in keeping it, Before Sunset, the middle part, will always be my favorite. A brisk 85-minute walk in and between the streets of Paris, former lovers reunited, 10 years older and now 10 years wiser. The yearning, the talking, the brushing of shoulders and stolen glances, the lazy strolling through all the beautiful scenery, and a final scene that creates a perfect moment that any hopeless romantic would want to live in forever. Makes Before Sunset one of the very best movies of the 21st century. And a timeless classic of the when the hell is that going to happen to me genre of cinema.
아저씨. 정은의 알고린 와일.
When it comes to the filmmaking style of Edward Yang, there probably wasn't a better director with a more fundamental understanding of the artistic value not only in the drama of everyday life, but in the smaller, quieter moments that precede and follow life-changing events. And Yi Yi is the ultimate cinematic snapshot between two centuries, capturing the melancholic beauty of transition and change, while also marking the official end of the Taiwanese New Wave. Like any great photographer, Yang creates a series of almost static shots with more to say about the human experience than most movies are able to conjure up in a 2-hour runtime, where a single frame went on to become the defining image of an entire artistic movement, and arguably the defining shot of international cinema over the last 25 years.
別のエリア、つまりこっちの世界へ進出してくるしか方法がない。例えばさ、一番最初、それはバカみたいなことで始まったんじゃないかな。
Scary movies often have the power to possess their audiences in fear, but none quite like Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Pulse, a lo-fi masterpiece where fear gently takes root as a slow burn from watching the disintegration of an entire society. Tokyo at the turn of the century is dying, an almost supernatural wasteland where ghosts haunt their victims across computer screens. Not only is it a story about a horrifying end to the world, but it shows how terribly lonely that experience could potentially feel in the digital age.
El enérgico, el ejecutivo, el pacificador de indios, el que hizo justicia sin emplear la espada.
Continuing with similar themes of alienation and loneliness, Lucrecia Martel's Zama is a hypnotic tale of colonial rule, about a Spanish officer in the 18th century waiting for a promotion. And he waits, and waits, and waits, and waits until the experience becomes almost out of body. It's certainly a movie that's hard to sell on its premise, given that the main character mostly splits his time between paranoid ideation and unfettered lust for anything standing on two legs. but man does Martel know how to make boredom look pretty. Like with her previous works, the element of sound is key. Every sonic detail is heightened and transformed into something you can almost feel, smell, or even taste, making Zama an almost phantom-like experience, haunting, mesmerizing, and utterly inescapable. The characters in Dogville are separated only by lines drawn on a stage, the skeletons of their lives and ours. We like to imagine small-town living as the ultimate expression of American freedom, but this so-called freedom comes at a price, in this case, privacy. The reality here is that every neighbor in every house knows every detail about your simple little life, as if you are an actor on a stage for their amusement. Daily routines become agonizing sentences of emotional and physical labor for our main character, Grace, played by one of cinema's all-time great masochists. With Dogville, director Lars von Trier is ultimately asking if we deserve forgiveness for our sins, or if forgiveness itself is what initially plants the seeds of our wrong and evil doings. For a director who's had so much success in exploring themes of broken families, struggling to put together the pieces of their collective lives, Shoplifters to me will always be Corrida's masterpiece. The fragility of this makeshift family of thieves is heartbreaking. Still, there is a tenderness in the way they bond over their desperation, where clever ploys of petty thievery make for cherished memories between adults and children alike, simply trying to survive. It's a movie you only need to see once for it to leave an indelible impact on your life. Undoubtedly a heavy story, but like with all of Corrida's films, there is an undeniable sense of hope at its center, a spark of light that he delicately protects and cherishes until the last flame goes out.
Electricity.
Didn't I tell you this motherfucker was gonna come up here with a non-electrical camera? Let's go, boy!
For the rest of my life, I will stand on the rooftops, screaming to the heavens and to the cinephiles below that Nope is without a doubt Jordan Peele's best movie. It is a juggling act of blockbuster mayhem about two siblings fighting for artistic ownership, and their muse happens to be a sentient, intergalactic creature that looks like a giant flying saucer. This cosmic predator is a not-so-subtle metaphor for the way Hollywood preys on its artists, actors, directors, extras, the animals, the sets, the stories. Everything is at risk of being devoured whole by the machine, or, in this case, an alien. But with some old-fashioned elbow grease and a ragtag team of film nerds, the director, the VFX guy, the cinematographer, and of course, the leading lady, you may be able to grab hold of something of value. A once-in-a-lifetime shot at becoming immortal amidst all the chaos, tragedy, and undeniable beauty born out of the artistic struggle.
Je n'arrive pas à vous faire sourire. C'est comme si j'avais l'impression de le faire et qu'il disparaissait. La colère finit toujours par gagner. Chez vous, c'est certain.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire was explicitly made for this generation of romantics. Director Celine Sciamma uses the art of painting as a way to capture the timeless nature of love, the way moments and memories and glances and stillness shared between lovers can totally possess one's feelings and passions, thus giving life to something so pure and utterly devastating in its ephemeral beauty. Nothing lasts forever, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least try to eternalize what we love most.
잠깐. 제시카 외동딸 일리노이 시카고 과선배는 김진모 그는 이사촌.
Director and writer Bong Joon-ho takes the concept of film as architecture and erects a near-perfect house of cards, modeled with multiple genres, themes, incredible acting, iconic characters, and some truly amazing plot twists, all blended together in a singular manner that made Parasite an international sensation. Very much the crown jewel of the Korean New Wave of the 2010s. It is also the defining cinematic critique of capitalism, where a small, low-income family slowly infiltrates the lives of the nuclear 1%. Of course, Parasite is led by the great Song Kang-ho, arguably the greatest acting face ever. The comedy of the first half is stellar. Bong sure does love his slow-motion shots, and the emotes of these actors are firmly etched into the annals of film history. And the darker, more sinister turn towards the middle always catches me by surprise. What else can you say about a movie that everyone loves? Well, actually, many people say Memories of a Murder is his better film. And honestly, it's arguable. It's a great movie too, man. I could have put that on this fucking list.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, you don't.
I give you facts.
You don't give
They
me
are not
facts. What facts?
They are fucking facts!
What facts?
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Why don't you kick the bed some more?
Fuck you!
Fuck you, you lazy-ass piece of shit!
While leaving There Will Be Blood off of this list destroyed a certain part of my soul, it was easily restored by the inclusion of The Master. For the simple reason that it's my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film. It's got the greatest American actor to ever live, Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace, giving arguably his best performance as a charismatic cult figure attempting to convert his latest follower, a volatile and enigma. A volatile and that's a tough one. A volatile and enigmatic guinea pig of a man, played by Joaquin Phoenix. From the beginning stages of their time as mentor and mentee to the struggle they share in keeping a tight grip on this cult of followers, and the turmoils of their own personal relationship, constantly shifting from friends to enemies to frenemies and so on. It's like watching two heavyweight fighters from different eras go blow for blow without a clear winner in sight. And the final scene shared between them is simply some of the best acting ever put to screen. Plus, it's got this scene of Hoffman going beast mode on this poor schmuck.
You seem to know the answers to your questions. Why do you ask?
I'm sorry you're unwilling to defend your beliefs in any kind of rational way.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Pig fuck!
Rest in peace to the GOAT.
He's a ruthless adventurer and a con artist who preys on mentally feeble, sick old ladies. And he probably fucks them, too.
I go to bed with all my friends.
Arguably the best-looking movie of the 21st century, watching the Grand Budapest Hotel is like walking into a Wes Anderson buffet, with all your favorite items on the menu, along with some fun surprises. Visually, he's never been sharper, or as ambitious. As I said, the best-looking film of the century. His unmistakable humor, the slapstick and absurdist gags have never been funnier, and the beating heart at its core is an expression of young love, beautifully captured and shared by actors Tony Revolori and Saoirse Ronan. But Ralph Fiennes is the undisputed star of the show. Wes Anderson has directed many an outstanding leading performance, but none better than Fiennes as Monsieur Gustave H. He runs, scamps, leaps, and scurries across the screen, part Marcello Mastroianni, part Bugs Bunny. And if this list were titled Greatest Performances of the 21st Century, it would be hard to argue against Ralph Fiennes. Actually, that could be a fun list. I might do that. Although, I think we all know who's number one. Daniel Day-Lewis. No.
Just love me till you don't know how.
I live, I die, I live again!
Not only the greatest action movie of the 21st century, but the greatest action movie of all time? The only evidence that we have that this movie was actually made using practical effects, well, I'm sure there's some B-roll footage, but is how utterly miserable the actors become recalling their time on set, or more accurately, their time braving the scorching hot deserts of the Australian outback. I imagine like with every film, when you're an actor in the thick of things, you never really know how it's going to turn out, but being in Mad Max was hell on earth, according to Tom Hardy, so I imagine he thought it was going to suck. How could that possibly translate to something awesome on screen? And yet George Miller pulled it off. And there's really not much to say about this movie that already speaks so well for itself. I mean, just look at this shit.
I want them back! They're my property!
A movie I've long wanted to discuss on this channel, Tokyo Sonata is a stone-cold masterpiece of suburban family drama. Not a horror film, but by far Kiyoshi Kurosawa's scariest film to date, because it's so damn relatable. Caught up in the day-to-days of a middle-class life, we watch the unraveling of an immediate family with nothing to lose, all living under one roof but walking radically different paths of self-destruction. There are moments, or more accurately, movements, that will never leave you, for better or worse, with one scene in particular that perfectly demonstrates the soothing, albeit temporary power of art. That one beautiful moment doesn't fix all your problems, but it can be a moment to reflect on what matters most. To stop chasing what you don't have in order to enjoy the stillness of what's in front of you. And I'm not kidding when I say the final scene is good enough to warrant its own video essay, which is what I wanted to do for many years, I just never did. Simply put, Mulholland Drive completely changed my perspective on what a movie could be, like my own personal cinematic Big Bang. The thing with Lynch is, once you realize he's basically the bizarro version of Alfred Hitchcock, you can sit back and really enjoy the visual talent. It's almost as if he's in communication with multiple dimensions all at once, conjuring images from alternate realities and timelines that only he can see and understand fully. And for all the talk about how weird or Lynchian his movies are, he had an incredible talent for directing actors. Naomi Watts and Laura Harring play two sides of the same ambitions, or maybe delusions, plaguing so many young artists looking for their big break, as we descend into a world where social media has convinced anyone and everyone they too can become famous. The cautionary tale inside the madness of Mulholland Drive has never been more relevant.
Doesn't that make you want to step on fucking Elton Brand's fucking neck? Come on, KG, this is no different than that. This is me, all right? I'm not a fucking athlete. This is my fucking way. This is how I win.
Maybe this should be number one because I think it occupies the spot of movie I can watch at any time, anywhere, and I'll probably never get sick of it. It's so hard not to watch this movie. When I sit down to watch a movie, I'm like, why don't I just throw on Uncut Gems? I don't think that should be the only criteria for ranking a movie. With that said, I love this fucking movie. Uncut Gems is a fucking blast. It takes everything the Safdies did so well in Good Time and cranks it up another few notches. The rambling city streets of Manhattan's Diamond District, it's like a glistening concrete maze, and we don't know if our main character, Howard Ratner, is trying to find the exit or purposely getting lost in the madness so he can just keep this cycle going until the wheels fall off. Not a career best for Adam Sandler, that would be Punch Drunk Love, but a performance that is dripping in swagger and old school charm, creating such an authentic and believable fuck-up of a man. A person you can only truly love from the outside looking in. It's also a masterclass in how to direct young and non-actors, with Julia Fox and Kevin Garnett giving two of the best supporting performances this century. KG is so good in this that one of my friends recently watched this. They said they had no idea that Garnett wasn't even an actor. Also, I will never forgive the Academy for, not at the very least, nominating Adam Sandler for Best Actor. I mean, what more do you want? I guess now we're gonna have to wait for Hustle 2. See if he's got a shot there.
Well, I'll tell you what I know. That's the dumbest fucking bet I ever heard of.
I disagree. I disagree, Gary.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Throughout its near 3-hour runtime, Drive My Car slowly builds on the central idea that the long road of processing one's grief is always better taken with a friend. A sprawling meditation on life and death by the Japanese master Ryosuke Hamaguchi that, to this day, makes me want to cry just talking about it. The central relationship between a stage director and his personal driver starts as nothing more than a shared mutual silence between destinations. Slowly, the grieving artist trying to escape his past, and the quiet, unassuming girl who treats driving a car with the seriousness of performing heart surgery, begin to bond over the things they've lost throughout the years. A calming atmosphere is created throughout the many trips up and down this winding road, inviting an honesty and openness between two different people of two different walks of life. It's an unlikely means of catharsis, similar to performing in a play or becoming lost in the emotional value of your work. We watch as a multilingual production of Uncle Vanya is rehearsed over the course of several months. The difficult task of balancing multiple languages across a dense and complicated source material is placed on the shoulders of our main character. It's an artist throwing himself into his work, then realizing the nature of the job will force him to confront his past regrets and trauma, not to mention trying to crack the code of successfully translating this play across multiple different languages and cultures. It's an exercise and ultimately a lesson in how scripted lines, communicated through body language and physical performance, can be just as powerful as the words themselves. Even if you don't fully understand what you're watching or hearing, everything you're supposed to feel is there. Or how the visual language of film can craft images so powerful in the emotions they evoke that you can't help but tear up every time you come across them. I just fucking love this shot. The late great Abbas Kiarostami was always fascinated by the way fiction and reality can blend together on screen, in a manner that no other artistic medium truly allows for. Like Someone in Love very much represents the pinnacle of this curiosity. A movie that isn't happening in the real world, but what is reality anyway? People playing the roles assigned to them, going through the motions of what's expected of them, all while the anxieties and fears of the ever-complicated human subconscious quietly simmer beneath the surface of our lives and relationships. Although the story of this movie is essentially indistinguishable from a series of real-life encounters from beginning to end, I never find myself bored by the pacing. On the contrary, it was quite riveting to watch these characters make split decisions when confronted with a new problem or situation. Personal identity can be something we adjust on the fly, and I think that's part of the genius of Kiarostami. He plays with our real-life expectations and makes us guess as to what these characters will do next, based on our own personal feelings and desires, which plays like a deception. At first, you think you're walking down a familiar road of boring routines and middle-class angst, only to discover you're braving a tightrope over a sea of generational loneliness, longing, and the constant threat of everything going to shit. Identity, memory, free will, duality, the beauty and the interconnectedness of the universe, and also the tragedy. I'm a sucker for shit like that, and Upstream Color packs those themes in abundance. A full-blown masterpiece of science fiction that literally washes over you in style and substance. The personal stakes are massive when two strangers find themselves under the curse of the same parasite that takes control of their bodies while creating a window into their minds they can no longer see through. What follows is a steady stream of waves, movements, melodies, and rhythms, all inspired by the very human experience of losing a part of yourself. It's like a chorus of cracked consciences, blending together trying to find the missing pieces of their broken psyches, scattered across time and space. It's an intoxicating 2 hours, haunting for the way it examines losing control of your mind and body, but also beautiful in the way it celebrates human connection through shared trauma. Shane Carruth may never work in Hollywood again, but he will forever deserve credit for taking a $100,000 budget and crafting something that looks and feels like it crash-landed on planet Earth as a long-lost message from the universe itself.
혹시 혜미하고 연락되세요? 저는 연락이 안 돼서요, 한 달째.
그렇죠. 나도 걔 연락이 안 돼요. 혜미는 그냥 연기처럼 사라졌어요.
A classic tale. Prince Charming and his missing princess, flipped on its head and burned from the inside out. It's remarkable how Lee Chang-dong at age 64 shows such a clear understanding of the anxieties and desires plaguing an entire generation of millennial men and women, with Stephen Yoon here playing the living manifestation of pathological jealousy. The best parts of his performance, like the effortless charm found in his spontaneous introduction or the growing uneasiness from his cold gaze, are some of the same aspects that make Burning such an intense and rewarding piece of cinematic poetry. It has an inner darkness that, the more it stares back at you, the more you struggle to understand its true nature, but you can't look away or stop yourself from trying. In Burning, young love begins almost like an answer to a prayer. It then slowly descends into a more sinister exploration of the power dynamics between the sexes, and how delusions conjured from the passions of these fragile relationships can create a suffocating, almost inescapable sense of dread around one person's life. The ambiguous narrative challenges the viewer without ever losing the allure of its central conflict. That old cliche of finding and then losing love, only so you can prove your worth by saving the girl of your dreams. A seemingly innocent daydream stolen and then brutally twisted into a psychological living nightmare.
Who could have known?
What time is it?
The first time I watched Inland Empire, I was half asleep the entire time, so I didn't understand what was happening by the end of it. The second time I watched Inland Empire, I was awake for the entire movie, and I didn't really understand what was happening by the end of it. By the third time I watched it, it had replaced Mulholland Drive as my all-time favorite David Lynch movie. Hands down, no argument. And I still didn't understand it. Is that the point? Of course it is. It's dealing with the broken identity of an ambitious, albeit naive actor who can no longer differentiate between her life and the lives of the characters she plays. Watching Inland Empire unfold in real time is like walking inside of a Salvador Dali painting before the paint is dry. The melting of time and space all around you, the inability to discern what's real and what's not, what is the dream, and more importantly, who is the dreamer. For all its madness, it's also quite funny. That's like Gen Z humor 16 years before Gen Z was even invented by the deep state. Inland Empire happens to be the only film where Lynch served as his own cinematographer. Eschewing the traditionalists and film purists, Lynch decided to shoot the entire thing on digital with a camera he bought at his local Circuit City, a handheld Sony DSR PD-150. Gotta be one of my favorite handhelds. His camera work here is mesmerizing, only matched by the brilliance of his muse, Laura Dern, whom he follows, or more accurately stalks, around these Hollywood sets and streets, acting less as stages for performance and more as different layers of one woman's psyche. Lynch then vowed to never shoot on film again, and sadly he never did, because he never made another fucking movie. because Hollywood blows, which is arguably the primary inspiration for making Inland Empire. It's a messy, soul-destroying business that can mutilate artistic ambition into nothing more than debilitating paranoia and crippling insecurity. Traditional methods are limited when trying to process this level of emotional pain. Hence, the world's foremost surrealist steps into the picture. When it comes to not only exploring, but also understanding the absurdity of the filmmaking business and how it mirrors the absurdity of our everyday lives, the legacy of David Lynch remains second to none.
Gandalf, I'm glad you're back.
So am I, dear boy.
For many people out there, the Lord of the Rings trilogy exists as one perfect cinematic experience, and comparing them individually as films is silly, sacrosanct, borderline illegal. Still, I can't help but think of Fellowship as the very best of the three. It's the beginning of the journey, where everything is still new and fresh. The opening prologue is a movie in itself, perfectly recapping events thousands of years in the past in mere minutes, followed by the introduction to the Shire, accompanied by that timeless Howard Shore score, curious and playful in nature, while also promising something truly epic. The stunning landscapes across the New Zealand outback bring this world to life in a way CGI never could, with a cast of characters that would once again become legendary for an entire new generation of nerds. The big, goofy, all-powerful wizard, played by Ian McKellen, nominated for Best Supporting Actor after making Gandalf an icon of world cinema. The eager and unruly hobbits, led by Elijah Wood as Frodo Baggins and Sean Astin as Samwise Gamgee, the quintessential underdogs that we all love to root for.
Anyway, you need people of intelligence on this sort of mission. Quest. Thing.
Viggo Mortensen as the fearless, mysterious Aragorn, the lovable duo of Legolas and Gimli, played by Orlando Bloom and John Rhys-Davies. I don't know why I'm naming all these actors when you guys already know this. It's more so me showing respect for arguably the greatest cast of actors ever assembled for a modern blockbuster. And for people complaining that there are no superhero movies on this list, I consider this cape shit. I mean, look at all these fucking capes. The world of Middle-earth feels endless, as if thousands of potential adventures are happening across this continent all at once, and we just happen to be following the best one. Trekking through the mountainsides and forests, exploring the caves of Moria, which I had to Google, fighting off giant trolls and sea monsters along the way, not to mention the allies of Sauron as they pursue the all-powerful One Ring. This scene as a kid scared the living crap out of me. It's just scene after scene, moment after moment of either epic, grandiose storytelling with some of the best action sequences ever constructed, to the smaller, tender moments concerning the impact of this arduous journey on these characters, while also grappling with the concept of the limitations of power. Sean Bean's Boromir tragically succumbing to the temptations of the ring is a performance that very well may be the best of the trilogy, and one of the most memorable moments of the last 25 years of international cinema. Him eating all of those arrows, bro. Seeing that as a kid was like the most inspiring shit ever. And while strong arguments could be made for The Two Towers or The Return of the King, two incredible movies in their own right, Fellowship gets the nod from me for being my go-to comfort movie. It's something I can throw on at any time in any mood and feel like I'm experiencing this for the first time, wrapped in the cozy blanket of Middle-earth and everything it has to offer. And for a novel that was once considered unfilmable, which is not a word, this movie still looks ahead of its time. I mean, I don't know what happened with the Hobbit trilogy, but man, Peter Jackson was just cooking. I mean, this shit is embarrassing for you modern filmmakers. You guys need to go take a weekend with Peter Jackson and learn some game. God damn. Oh, where do I begin with a movie that means so much to me personally, and to the rest of the world? For decades, Spirited Away has been celebrated as possibly the greatest animated movie ever produced. By taking the story of Alice in Wonderland and changing the setting to an old, haunted Japanese bathhouse, operated by a staff of humanoid animal spirits and also a giant radish for some reason, Hayao Miyazaki and his Ghibli animators created a world bursting with visual creativity and detail that makes even the best animated films look lazy by comparison. On a frame-by-frame basis, it's impossibly brilliant, as if each frame took 10 years to draw and then another 10 years to animate. In this version of the story, Alice is substituted for Chihiro, a seemingly unremarkable 10-year-old girl who loses her parents, her name, and basically her entire identity in one day. Chihiro then must navigate this maze of spirits, deities, and mythological creatures, including Yubaba, the giant-headed witch who controls the bathhouse, or the spider spirit Kumaji and his fuzzy little suit spirits. Her journey is like a celebration of childhood innocence, where bravery is the most important part of heroism, not size or strength or age or wisdom. That when push comes to shove, children can always tell the difference between right and wrong, or can see the goodness inside of lost souls that have been abandoned to their cruel fates. It's also a nice change of pace from the typical childhood Odyssey adventures, mostly focusing on young boys. In this case, it's a young girl getting lost in a sea of one man's imagination, full of vibrant colors, magical mayhem, and, of course, lessons on how to manage the world without your parents holding your hand. Hayao Miyazaki has always believed in the power of fiction to explore very real concepts, that things like magic and dragons and witches and bouncing heads and giant babies or terrifying translucent creatures with no face, that's why they call them no-face, or parents turning into pigs, can be used not just as expressions of human ideals and beliefs, but as a way to create both lasting images through the medium of animation while still exploring the themes he cares so deeply about, like the sequence when the river spirit is saved. It's inspiring to watch Chihiro chug through this ordeal, and the animation is unreal, but the message is crystal clear. Humans have polluted the river with an avalanche of garbage, and nature is now demanding we clean up the mess. This is a pattern found throughout Miyazaki's work. The way his sense of magical whimsy and action-adventure storytelling blend together to create masterpieces of the genre, but I believed he peaked with Spirited Away. Maybe not his best film, some would argue not even the best of this century, but certainly the one that captures everything we've come to know and love about his signature style that has inspired a generation of filmmakers and fans alike.
Thìว่ามันคืออีหยังล่ะ
วิญญาณกับสมสัตว์ที่มันอดอยากมันรู้สึกได้ถึงความเจ็บป่วยของพ่อ
There were a few movies by Joe I could have chosen for this list, like Cemetery of Splendor, which after my first watch made me a fan for life, or Memoria, a movie I've seen 4 times on the big screen since its release, even Tropical Malady, a 2-part meditation on man versus nature and the myths crafted between their rivalry. But Uncle Boonmi Who Can Recall His Past Lives was the first movie to pop in my head when crafting this list, not as the best Apichatpong Warase Thakun film, or as his fans like to call him, Joe, but as maybe the best film ever made. At least for me, it's got everything I'm looking for when watching a new movie. It's soft, slow-moving, pretty to look at, but also a little spooky in a way that is both startling and intriguing. Uncle Boonmi begins as the story of a dying farmer spending his last few days surrounded by his family and his work. But without any spoilers, strange occurrences begin to happen. The mysterious nature of the story reveals itself like a cold draft, encompassing the lives of all of these characters as they grapple with the delicate matter of looming death. But there is a calming, nearly therapeutic quality found in the way Joe balances the supernatural possibilities of past lives with the very natural phenomenon of death and subsequent grief. By blending reality and fiction into a stunning visual language, Joe becomes an unrivaled cinematic master of both life and death and reincarnation, embracing the deeper meanings these ideas have on the lives of real people. The death of cinema, or in this case, cinemas, as foretold by Tsai-Ming Liang's Goodbye Dragon Inn. It's the ultimate bittersweet love letter to the communal experience of watching a great movie with strangers. As funny as it is depressing, watching it for the first time reminded me so much of the theater I always went to as a kid. Creaky hallways and sticky floors that stuck to the bottom of your shoe by the time the movie was over. Leaky and disgusting bathrooms that looked like something out of a Saw movie where you actually had to dodge puddles on your way to the toilet. Families stuffing their faces with popcorn and snacks, the crinkling of their wrappers, the shifting of their soda straws. Talkative spectators unaware that whispers in a quiet theater are louder than screams, or the understaffed workers patrolling the theater like The Walking Dead. Tsai homes in on these little awkward and familiar aspects of the in-theater experience, the silly behavior of patrons and workers alike on the last day of an iconic cinema's legendary run. And while so much has changed for this tiny theater in Taipei, the essence of the theatrical experience remains the same. And it's not just the poor theater etiquette or the unappreciative nature of the work, but the lone spectator so enraptured by the movie on screen he can barely hold back tears of excitement, sadness, elation, all of the emotions. It's also one of the best examples ever of using another movie inside your own movie to make a crucial point. Even the art of cinema, for all of its intangibility, will one day die. Dragon Inn plays for one last time on this big screen, an exceptional piece of action filmmaking, one of the most influential wuxia films ever made. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But for how much longer will people appreciate its greatness if theaters no longer exist? Who or what will provide this experience for the next generations? Or will it simply be lost to time? It's the somber dance between art and the ephemeral nature of things that makes Goodbye Dragon Inn an almost mythical experience, like you're witnessing the joining of hands of an endless number of spectators who sat in this very theater, a place where the souls of past viewers live. The lone cinephiles who gladly spent their free afternoons in a dark room watching movies they love with people they don't know, either cursed or blessed to haunt these grounds forever until the final reel plays, and then become forgotten. Cinematic melancholy has never felt this good. Hard to Be a God is essentially a Frankenstein's monster of a movie, with Alexei German playing the role of mad scientist. From the beginning of the century to early 2013, the late great Russian director spent over a decade of his life willing this movie into existence through sheer artistic determination, only to pass away 9 months before it was officially released. To this day, I still have no idea how German and his team managed to pull this off, let alone make it happen in this way, in this manner. It's an absolute mess of a film. Literally, it's fucking disgusting, like an endless stream of filth and shit and puke and blood and guts, with a story and screenplay that is basically indecipherable. Not because it's in Russian, but because it makes no sense. And I'm not celebrating this film because it's hard to understand. There are plenty of movies too experimental for their own good. It's ultimately about one man's final attempt to prove humanity's worth. If you went in totally blind to the movie's source material, the journey's purpose can seem a bit confusing and utterly pointless at times, because proving that central argument, that humans aren't a disgusting, depleted, desolate species of underdeveloped slugs, was never going to be easy for German, so why should it be easy for us? Part of the genius is how German and his team created a world so visually revolting, totally from scratch. Hard to Be a God is mostly practical, employing real sets and designs to create a convincing medieval aesthetic with an extensive use of fake bodily fluids and mud throughout. And if that isn't enough to make you squirm, the camera itself operates like an alien probe. Every crevice, every angle, every aspect of personal space, no matter how gross, is shown on screen, with the fourth wall constantly being broken. Characters look at the camera curiously. It's like a foreign object floating throughout their orbit and following their every move. Sometimes they speak to it, sometimes they guide it along. It could be an object of their salvation or the ultimate documentation of their demise. Being powerless in a world one finds utterly revolting can feel like walking in a parade of endless shit and filth as the world watches along, only to discover most people don't care if the grass could be potentially greener on the other side, or if the shit could be less brown. I don't know, this movie has a lot of shit and still manages to be one of the best looking movies I've ever seen in my entire life. The definitive achievement of modern cinematography and maximalist filmmaking on the big screen. And in my humble opinion, Hard to Be a God will be remembered as the single greatest film of the 21st century. So far. Well guys, there you have it. My 25 favorite movies, which is a more accurate description of the 21st century so far, but for the sake of the video, we're going with best. And before I leave you guys, I wanted to throw up some honorable mentions. I didn't want to do this too early in the video, so that there weren't any spoilers or disappointments, but yeah. I really agonized over this list. It changed so many times, and at one point or another, each of these films were on the list, but choices have to be made, and it was just Sophie's choice after Sophie's choice. It was really tough. And like with any list, I imagine there are many disagreements out there, so comment down below. If I've said it before, I'll say it again. Probably be my dying words. Art is subjective, and film is art. Never forget that. Don't let anybody tell you different. Alright, we'll see you back here in like 5 years. We'll do top 30 of the century so far. Oh, and if you're interested in hearing Aaron or Teddy's favorite movies of the century, go ahead and check out our Patreon page, where we will be releasing a podcast discussing, you guessed it, best movies of the century so far. Really looking forward to Teddy's list, and if all 3 rush hours make it, God, I hope they do.